Actually, we got more people than we usually do.
No, we're only missing Cassie. Billy's here maybe. Joe is here. Hi, Joe. How you doing, Joe? Joe is here.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order and stand for the singing of O Canada.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
I can't see who's on the camera, so you might have to peek in that little thing there. Okay, record of attendance. Lindsay, you good there? Absent with regrets.
Make a motion to excuse Councillor McLeod for tonight's meeting, Your Worship.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. I'm sure Councillor McLeod is watching us.
So there's one person for sure.
That's right, got one person. Declarations of conflict of interest, anyone, and you can declare at the time of the agenda item. Okay, approval of agenda, additions or deletions. So I have 13A. You wanted to add Special Olympics,
Special
Deputy?
Olympics, please, Your Worship.
Okay, and 13B, I'll add COVID-19. Any more additions? 13C, fire service rating. Anything else, folks? We're good? Okay.
Accept the agenda, Your Worship.
Okay, put your light on. Can you put your, yeah.
Your Worship, I think we should have a discussion before we close off the meeting about the timing
Okay, that's not working.
and performance of the next regular council meeting in terms of maybe we should be doing it by telephone as
Okay.
opposed to formal meeting. So
Okay.
I think we should have a discussion, get some advice as to whether we can or can't and all that.
Okay, so if I'm doing COVID, do you want to talk about it under that? Or do you want to do a, okay, plus next council? Okay, good.
Motion to accept the agenda, Your Worship, with the additions.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Okay, approval of minutes. I have Committee of the Whole, January 22nd. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Question.
All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Public hearing, February 13th, please.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Question.
Questions called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. I have Town Council, February 13th.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Town Council, February 13th in camera, please. Moved? Seconded? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. I have Committee of the Whole, February 26th, please.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
Question, Your Worship.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. And Town Council, February 26th.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Question.
Nothing? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Thanks, folks. Okay, no presentations. Business arising. Request for decision, Accessibility Committee Policy. Did you want to speak to that, or okay, go ahead, CAO.
Your Worship, there's a request for decision there, and it's related to the accessibility Advisory Committee policy. So a couple of years ago, Council passed a policy related to Accessibility Advisory Committee, and almost immediately after that, the province undertook an initiative and an act to actually address this in a fairly aggressive way. And now the act exists, and there has been a pilot that it was undertaken in the town of Wolfville. There have been some learnings from that, and there's been a model advisory committee policy developed, which we have used to create this new recommended policy to you. So the motion would be to repeal and replace the Accessibility Advisory Committee policy, so that we'll be consistent with the recommendations from the pilot project, and we'll move forward to meet our obligations under the new act.
So it's just a name change, really.
There's a little bit of change in the makeup of the committee, and in a very positive way, including people with disabilities or from
Yes. organizations
representing people with disabilities. So, yeah, that is, I think, the most significant change.
Good. Councillor Cleveland?
I would just like to make the motion. I've looked this over. I've been very excited about the prospects of having an advisory committee on accessibility for a while now, and the policies. And it was the right move to wait and get the planning toolkit and revise as to reflect that. So I'd like to make a motion that we accept this as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Questions? Good. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. Grant policy amendment. Go ahead, CAO.
Your Worship, at our last meeting, we considered grants to organizations, and we had some applications that were dated after the deadline, and it was suggested by council that you'd like to see the deadline be a firm deadline. And so the amendment in the policy is, in fact, to say just that, that the deadline is the deadline.
Okay, I have a question. So my question is, it's one thing when they apply after the deadline, okay, a few days later, but what's happened in the past few years is people will apply in the summer or in the fall, and they usually walk away with full, right? So we need to, I think we probably need to cover that too. How do we cover that? Because it's just not fair.
Well, you do Your Worship, I think you would do a grants process once a year. You have a deadline. If you receive applications after the deadline, you encourage those people to apply next year. The deadline has passed. If the deadline is February 28th, and February 28th is passed, then it's past the deadline.
Yeah, ask Lindsay, maybe she knows if they did. Yeah. Your light's not on. I need to. There you go. We love to hear you.
Yeah, Vic.
Yeah. I'm guessing that could be the problem, you know, and there's a transition and somebody didn't know or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
And that one is usually a set amount, but it's taxes basically.
So, Your Worship, the intention of bringing this forward was not to impact on our recent process, but rather to put things in place
future?
for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so somebody's going to have to move though to add them. Am I right?
Well, this...
You've got them on the list,
Sure.
but they're not on the list, but they are.
Right. So if you like, if this causes some awkwardness, we can defer this item till after you've approved this year's grants, and then we can bring it back to the table and deal with it
Okay.
afterwards. There's no urgency to this.
Thank you, Your Worship.
So, what do you want? What would you like to do? What's the desire of council? I think because this doesn't affect this year's, that we're okay to okay
Make
this.
a motion, Your Worship, to move this until we pass all the grants from this year, and we'll look at it when that's done.
Okay,
I'll second the motion.
moved and seconded. Any discussion? We're good with that? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Solid Waste Resource Bylaw Amendment, second reading, although I think we're going to have a little bit of a change. Go make some changes and go to first reading.
Right, so your worship, after this, this draft bylaw amendment was brought forward, we became aware, and in fact, I started to receive pictures of other so-called compostable plastic-looking products, non-food items, that are available in local stores, that just like the so-called compostable bags, would cause us difficulty and additional work at the compost facility to remove them at the front end, or cause us problems later in getting our compost certified. And so I have a set of amendments, and I don't know that
Do you want this? Is that it?
No. I have a set of amendments that, I don't think we have copies of this for everyone. Okay, so as far as second reading goes, I would suggest that we not proceed with it, but that rather, when I have copies of this for you later, that we would pass a motion to approve first reading of these amendments. And what these amendments do is they go broader, and they deal with a compostable product. So that means any non-food product made or described as being biodegradable or compostable, or of other similar description. And what this amendment would require would be, if anyone wishes to sell such a product, that they have to get a permit from the town. So they would have to provide us with a sample of the product that we could look at, test if necessary, determine if we can identify it as being a different product than a plastic product at the front end of the process, and it actually degrades through the composting process. If both of those things occur, we can issue a permit and the product could be sold. Otherwise, they would be banned from our collection. So I will get copies of this made, and I would ask you to consider this later on the agenda. The other amendment that I would ask that you consider later on the agenda is that currently you can place yard waste at the curb in a plastic bag. So you can rake up your leaves and you can put them at the curb in a plastic bag. And this has been pointed out by some of our citizens as being contradictory to our current initiative to remove plastics. And there are biodegradable paper bags available on the market and are quite widely used for yard waste. And so if we amend that out of our bylaw at the same time, then we'll get two related items addressed.
Okay, so as a bylaw, does this go to the public?
Yes, so the process would be, because this is the first time you're seeing these amendments, that I'd ask you to approve first reading. And then ahead of the next council meeting, the amendments are advertised in the paper, and citizens or business owners can come forward at this time during the council meeting and have the opportunity to speak and provide their perspective, whether they're in support or opposed to it. And then the question is put to council. You can then either approve the amendments as presented. You could, if you made significant changes to them, you'd have to go back to first reading.
Okay.
Right? No, right? Or you could simply refer it back to staff for further study. So at this point, because these are significant changes, you should not approve second reading of the amendments. Rather, later on the agenda, we'll go back to first reading.
Okay, that's fair. So we're even talking about, are we looking at a comprehensive list? So for example, I use...
No, sorry, cut you off, Your Worship.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we were started down that road, and I kept getting pictures of new things that were showing up on shelves in local stores. So as soon as we say straws, forks, knives, spoons, plates, and cups, someone's going to come out with something else.
My coffee pods.
Right. So there was a CBC news report that has been shared on our Facebook page, where the restaurant industry trade show, as the CBC reporter indicated, around every corner within this trade show was another vendor with some biodegradable plastic-looking product. And those things cannot be distinguished from regular plastic products by the untrained eye. And our guys at the compost facility can't keep a schedule of all these things and the nuances or slight differences they have from plastic and pick out the real plastics and leave the biodegradables in. It's unreasonable. I think what's happening is there's some marketing people who have found a niche where they can charge a premium price for a product that doesn't perform as advertised. It can't be accepted at most municipal compost facilities. That's part of the CBC report. And unfortunately, some consumers are paying premium dollars and think they're doing a good thing to no actual benefit.
Okay, good. Councillor Hood?
Your Worship, I think I could help a little bit, maybe. In II, I would delete the word "for" and add four words. To the town for municipal collection, acceptable to the town for municipal collection in the Great Yard. Because if you say acceptable for municipal collection, they might argue with you, okay, what's that definition all about?
Although I think municipal collection is defined in the bylaw.
In our bylaw?
It is, yeah.
I don't have that part in front of me.
What's it say? What's it say there? Because you might have some other municipalities that are approving it, and then they'd argue, whatever.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Maybe it's all right. Why don't you take the word municipal out of it? Acceptable to the town for collection in Green Garden. What do you think?
Might be defined.
Greg, just take the word municipal out of there altogether and just say acceptable to the town. Then we're deciding.
Yeah, I think, I remember looking at that and just trying to find it here, sorry.
Your Worship, so the definition in the bylaw, municipal collection means the action by the town or its collector of picking up source-separated waste resources and other solid waste at the curb, loading it into trucks and delivering it to the designated municipal solid waste management facility.
Yeah, so it is specific to the...
Yeah.
It does say that, but you have to look at the two parts of the bylaw to make it clear that the town has permission, don't you? The town has the deciding, the town is a deciding authority on what is or is not.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, when I was doing it, I guess I was just referring to the existing definition and the bylaw. I mean, it's fine to do it, that way, the other way.
I just put it out there. I don't know. I like the idea of thinking that it's clear that it'll be the town that decides what is or is not compostable, not some other. Yeah, come on. I got lots of other things to do here.
So what changed their proposal?
Acceptable to the town for collection in Green
Yeah,
Park.
when you take out the municipal collection, if you're gonna put acceptable to the town.
Oh,
Just
I
make a
guess.
small seed collection in the green trade.
So I'll move amendment to the, do we have a motion on the floor? We do.
Well, we were going to come back to it.
All right, I'll leave it to you then.
Are we still going to come back to it, or are we? Yeah, okay. So we'll leave it for now. And then we'll make that change when we, good. Citizen Advisory Committee's policy amendment. So, just looking here. Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
just bring that up, I believe. Yes.
I've got it here too if you need it. So it's those last two pages, basically.
Yep, so these were, again, we talked about this at the Committee of the Whole. This is the provisions to create the Public Transit Advisory Committee. So we've incorporated them into this existing policy, as we have several other advisory committees, and so that's for your consideration.
Okay. Did you see all of the, have you taken a peek there? And it's a policy, so, yeah, what? Go ahead. Those last two pages.
Your Worship, I was thrown off by the title. There's an error in there. So Section 10 deals with the Public Transit Advisory Committee, and we had already approved that. Section 11, although it's titled Public Transit Advisory Committee, is actually the Sister Cities Advisory Committee.
Oh,
So it's just a typo, so
Yep.
with the exception of that typo, all of the provisions under that are in red are for the Sister City Committee. So that's actually what you're being asked to consider tonight.
okay, so we're just adding it in.
That was a whole separate discussion.
Yeah. So it's a policy, so we can okay that tonight. So, anybody want to make that
So moved,
motion?
Your Worship.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll second that.
seconded. Any discussion?
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. No, that's okay. New business, tender results, bulk purchase, Class A compost, CAO.
So, Your Worship, we invited tenders from 8 local firms for the bulk purchase of 1,000 cubic yards of our Class A compost, and we received bids from 3 firms. The bids are summarized in the table provided by the Manager of Public Works. And after reviewing the tenders, it is recommended to accept the bid from D'Entremont Excavating for the price of $11,000 plus HST.
Okay, so, you know what the question is?
Nope.
It's like double.
Yeah,
They're buying something from us.
they're buying something from
They're
us.
buying something. They're not selling something.
Oh, oh my goodness. They're buying the compost. I'm like, why are we getting compost? That was my second question. Oh, okay. Let's have that motion before I,
Your Worship, I'll accept the motion from D'Entremont Excavating.
Yep.
In the total price of $11,000 plus HST.
Okay.
Second.
moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Just wait. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Aye. Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. Occupational health and safety policy, CAO. Boy, you did a lot of work.
No, actually, staff did a lot of work. So, as I mentioned, I think a month or two ago, we have a scheduled process that Lindsay is managing, where all of our policies and bylaws are being given to staff to review and make recommendations to council, so that at least once in your mandate, you will have reviewed or received at least recommendations on every bylaw and policy that exists within the town. So that ensures, A, that you have a say on every bylaw and policy. It is brought to your attention. And secondly, that none of them get so old and stale without having been looked at that we kind of forget them in the dust. So this policy was reviewed by our Occupational Health and Safety Committee. And as you can see by the markups, they've spent a fair amount of time going through it. And so I'm recommending to you to consider, and if deemed advisable, adopt the amendments to the Occupational Health and Safety Policy as recommended.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? There's just typos down here, but I'll fix that. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. On-site servicing bylaw, CAO.
Your worship, this one is of the similar ilk. This was our on-site service bylaw that I asked our town engineer to review, and his memo attached. He did review it, and upon review, he recommends no revision or update is required to that bylaw.
I have a question.
Put him on the spot.
So you can't, hello, engineer. So you can't develop or construct a dug well within the town except on a lot on which a dug well exists. People, I didn't realize we're allowed to dig wells in town, period. You thought you were? I thought you were not. Do you know what that? It's probably answers below.
So the way the provision reads is that no person shall develop or construct a dug well within the town of Yarmouth except on a lot on which a dug well exists as of the date of this bylaw. And I assume that's kind of a grandfathering thing? Yeah.
So what, yep. Which means you can go dig another well according to this. Oh, don't ask that question, Clifford. Right, you know what I mean?
I'm sorry, I said that.
Well, I think you had the answer before.
Really, what I'm trying to say is, who would dig a well when you got good water like we provide here in the town of Yarmouth there?
Yes,
That's what you meant to
I
say.
understand that. All I'm saying is, according to this, if you already have a well, you can dig another one. Well, I'm saying if we can't dig wells, are we okay with people digging wells in town of Yarmouth? If you have a well already, you can dig another one.
Maybe enough time gone by, we could get rid of that whole.
Your father, what about your father's house? Yeah, see, there's on Ellis, well, where Wade's father lives.
He has a well, and he's in town, and he doesn't have town water.
So he chose not to.
Because it was already there, he didn't dig it.
You know what, you didn't
Okay.
get to choose, so.
He did, 17 years ago, 20 years ago.
Well, he must have beat us out right. Because
My dad was a stubborn kid.
maybe it's too expensive for some people.
Okay.
My dad was also cheap. Much like I am.
And no one should. But
Are we
We're not
okay with this, or
recommending a
go,
change
go
anyway.
ahead, Don.
So for the purpose of the people that are still on this grandfather clause, I would say that this, whether you are on town or not, and you're still existing on where you're living and what's the name, I think this backs everybody up, and we all win, regardless if we're going to talk about whether they're on town water or not. I'm not sure of everybody on the old Sawdust Trail, I think, the one that goes cross sideways on a Havelock that goes this way with where a certain family used to live. I'm not sure if they're on wells or not, but I don't think that this makes any difference.
So if we're saying that somebody
Has-
maybe on the Sawdust Trail has a well now, something
they're
happens
still-
to the well and they need to dig another one.
And they're
if
still
we're okay
using
with
it.
that,
Yeah.
then we're okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm good. All right, want to make a motion to pass it?
Yes.
so move.
Okay. Seconded. All those in favor of passing this one? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Yeah, accepting the recommendation of the engineer. So we like our engineer.
That's you, Mark. DeMario.
Okay, Municipality of Barrington request for letter of support. This is a good one. So the municipality of Barrington is bidding to host the 2021 World Championships of Double Bitted Axe Throwing. So they have Darren down there and Susie Atwood, and they've been doing some really cool things, putting us all on the map. So they're looking basically for a letter of support for that. At this time, we're not requesting any financial assistance, but it's possible.
Your worship, I'll make the motion.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yeah, yeah. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Request for decision IT contract.
Just
That's
bring up.
long and dry, okay?
Okay. So, Your Worship, we are in between IT support. Our last IT staff person left us in December, and we have been considering our options since then, including investigating the Lunenburg County Joint Services Board has an IT service that they provide to several municipalities, including District of Shelburne. They provide service to the YMCAs in western Nova Scotia, as well as a few municipalities in Lunenburg County. They've presented to NSFM and they've presented to AMA in the past, and I was quite intrigued by the professionalism that they presented to the groups. And so rather than moving forward trying to do something different, I reached out to see if they'd be interested, what it might look like to have them provide services to the town of Yarmouth. They were quite interested, and we met with David Muse, the program manager, and had him develop a proposal for us, the outline of a proposal. He also, when he came down and presented, he presented to all of our senior staff, and so I got the feedback from all of our senior staff in terms of what their feeling was around the services that he was proposing and his approach to municipal IT. And I can tell you that they were all very supportive, and I might even say excited about the approach. We've sort of grown in our IT footprint over the years, probably over the last 20 years or so. We've gone from, we had a financial server that looked after the taxation and water billing, and virtually nobody who if you weren't on that system, you didn't have a computer on your desk. Your work was done by paper. Your secretary typed your correspondence on a typewriter, to the point now where we have several systems that we run for everything from water treatment to our transit system to you name it. Everybody basically in the town has, for one reason or another, some use of the technology. So I think we've grown to the point that we require a high-level professional service. They've offered us what I think is a very reasonable approach to it. Excuse me. I've included the PowerPoint presentation that he gave to staff. The proposal that he gave me gave us three options. One was that we would purchase a high-level service that would be provided out of Lunenburg, and then we would graduate to one of two options. One option would be they would employ somebody in this area who would service us 70% of the time and Shelburne 30% of the time, and perhaps the local YMCA part of that as well. The other proposal is that they would provide the high-level service to us and the blueprint, the supervision, but the employee would be, yes, perhaps, the employee would be ours. I am recommending that we move forward as soon as possible with getting a contract in place for the beginning of the service, which is provided from Lunenburg, until such time as we're able to put a staff person in place to provide the local service. The reason I'm recommending going forward with the staff person being our staff person is that under Lunenburg, there's going to be a defined scope of service. So for instance, they might not look at our audio-visual system because it's outside of their normal scope. they wouldn't, and they've said very clearly, they would not look at our public Wi-Fi system, so we would have to find somebody else to manage that. Whereas I think for the 30% difference between it being their employee and their scope versus 100% ours, and we set the scope of work, I think it's well worth it that we would hire the employee. But again, they would provide the overall guidance, supervision, they would have the relationships with our third-party vendors, and they would give us the security, network services, and the blueprint for the overall service. So we don't have the details of the contract worked out, but I'm asking for your approval to move forward and negotiate a contract with the Joint Services Board from Lunenburg County.
I'll make that a motion for discussion, Your Worship.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Okay, let's have the discussion.
Okay, on the question, yes.
Go ahead, you're on deputy first if you want to speak.
Yeah, Jeff, so we have the person here, we have the person in place once it gets going, but we will still have all the support and tech support and technical support from the Lunenburg entity, right? So you're buying more than one person, you're buying
So you're
almost a package.
You're buying you would be hiring desktop support here, desktop support.
Yeah.
Okay, the person who's going to come and jiggle the cable or make it print. But things like the network services, managing the licensing, managing the security. So right now, we have IT. We have 9 different locations where we have IT deployed in the town. We have 9 firewalls we're maintaining to protect.
Is the Mariner Center have their own tech support? Yes.
Mariner Center is separate.
Okay.
So I'm just talking Town of Yarmouth.
Okay.
Right? So they can do this, and we can manage one firewall, and they have a system where the one firewall is managed 24/7
Okay.
by a third party. So
Okay.
they have figured this out, and that's what I like about it. They have figured out how to deliver this for municipalities in an effective way and a cost-effective way.
Do you know any of the other municipalities? Are they all in the district?
Town of Bridgewater is one.
Okay.
And they're, I reached out to the CAO in Bridgewater to get her opinion in terms of the service. And it's certainly good at the level I'm talking about getting from them. The desktop support, I think we're better served to have a person on our own staff who, again, we can set the scope. If it includes these microphones and the audio-visual and the downtown Wi-Fi, well, that's up to us.
Yeah,
But
okay.
the overall guidance and the plan for the deployment of IT would come from their Joint Services Board.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, Dawn, you're on.
So when we're looking at financially, to get option, you would be going to option number A and then hiring a complete person for option, for IT. This option B sounds like we would get that person 70%, and it would come out of the agreement that you made between them. You see what I'm saying? Or somehow in your negotiations, you would negotiate number A, what you mentioned in number A, and then hire a second person for B. While in their proposal for B, they would hire everybody, and we would use their staff. Is that what I'm understanding?
So they have proposed to provide the basic service up front, and they had proposed to hire a staff person that would be based in Yarmouth, and we would pay 70% of the cost, and we would have 70% of the service. But the service scope would be set by them. And so what I'm saying is, let's hire the person ourselves, pay 100%, and the other things that we need done that fall outside of their normal scope of service, we can still get done by the one person, rather than having to then turn around and hire an independent contractor for maybe each of these services, separate from the employee.
You good? Okay, Cliff?
The CEO mentioned firewall, and it's very good. Can you tell me if the firewall is as good as Joe Biden's was in South Carolina? If it is, I'm all on. They like that one. Seriously, We've had trouble, or I think we had, finding people in the area to do this work. But we're still going to have to find somebody, aren't we? If you go down this way.
Go ahead.
And are we going to be able to find anyone that's any more effective than what we've had in the past?
CAO?
So, Your Worship, this is the first time that we're offering a full-time position. So in the past, when we've sought, we had a part-time person, and that person left. I think he was able to find full-time work, and so I think if we're going to have somebody, we have to commit full-time. We did put out an ad, and we did receive resumes, and I think there's a reasonable likelihood that we'll be able to pull from there. And in fact, it's going to be the same pool that they would pull from if it was their employee. It's doing the same work, and in fact, when we talked about it, they said, will you be able to send us the resumes you've collected? So it's a matter of who they work for, not a matter of who it would be.
Somewhere along the line, we thought that IT was going to save us money. We're at another staff person. In the law offices, we have mountains of paper, eh, Greg? Mountains that we never had to deal with before. The courts can't get anything done. IT. Yeah, okay.
So what do you want us to do there, CAO?
Support the recommendation to negotiate a contract with Lunenburg Municipal Joint Services Board for the provision of IT services, and to proceed to hire a desktop support person to work within that.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, reports, council advisory committees, deputy mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll make a motion that council appoint Councillor Wade Cleveland, Councillor Steve Berry, and Deputy Mayor Phil Mooney to the Public Transit Nominating Committee.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
Your Worship, I move that council accept the proposal as submitted by Fathom Studio, Inc. to provide design consulting services for Phase 3 of the Main Street Extension streetscape design in the amount of $51,438 plus HST.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that one?
Come down to here somewhere.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
Your Worship, I move that the town of Yarmouth enter in a sister city agreement of collaboration with the city of Germanistan, Republic of Armenia.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
Your Worship, I move that council permit the Dalhousie School of Nursing to use council chambers for a small reception during their 25th anniversary celebrations on April the 23rd, 2020.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
Your Worship, I move that council refer to budget $6,000, a request for funds from the MIT REAP project through the Department of Business. Will that be Department of Business,
Yeah.
NSBI?
No, it's business.
Department- okay.
Yeah, it's Bernie Miller. Okay. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
Your Worship, I move that the town establish a sister city advisory committee to identify areas of collaboration between the two organizations and citizens, and that Mayor Mood and Deputy Mayor Mooney be appointed to the committee.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Citizen advisory committees, is that you?
I think that might be me, Your Worship. I chaired the last
yes.
PAC meeting, but I don't think there are any recommendations that came out of it. But this is from Planning Advisory of February the 18th of 2020 to proceed to a public hearing in order to consider and, if deemed advisable, amend the land use bylaw to ban the display of all campaign lawn signs during elections as outlined in the planner's report.
Okay. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary?
I think this is
One
just,
nay.
and this was just to go for a public hearing.
Yeah.
Donnie's in. That's unanimous.
Okay.
Yeah,
Public
you save
hearing.
it for next time.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary?
Thank you, your worship.
Thank you, Deputy. Okay, reports for information. Questions for committee chairs, anyone? We good?
Maybe, I have just one comment, maybe for committee chairs.
Sure. Go ahead.
I had to chair the Communities in Bloom meeting last week because of the passing of Councillor Cleveland's father, and I wish my heartfelt condolences to you and the family. George was a great individual, and I always had fun talking to him, and you know that we were of the same political persuasion, and I think he was even hardcore than I am, if that's saying something. But we had discussions at the Communities in Bloom about revamping the Mayflower Award. So we had a couple of ideas. We discussed them before, Councillor Cleveland. I think there's the City of Edmonton, and there's a couple other areas that do more targeted approaches on awards, anything from window boxes to specialty gardens, rock gardens, not the same old thing that, you know, I nominate Greg Barrow and I nominate Don Barry and Steve Barry for a Mayflower Award because their house is pretty and I think it looks nice. But these are more targeted awards towards business and community groups and somebody that even lives in even Beacon Street, seniors, Hibernia, Sankey Manor. If they have a window box, they'll be able to be nominated for one of these awards. So they're looking at that. I don't think it will be in place for this spring, but they're looking to, I think they've established a committee and they're looking to bring those ideas forward. So it'll be something to look forward for next year.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, very nice. Sankey Manor. See if Nan's watching.
Right, Bill, get that window box
Right.
up, Bill.
I think Nan might be watching. She's going to get her window box ready. Yep. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Barry.
I just want to say that I made a mistake and entered their meeting early, so they put the run to me. But they welcomed me to their meeting. I came down to a meeting early, and they were in their meeting, and I thought it was my meeting.
You got to a meeting early, is that what you're saying?
To that, way early. We're talking 3 hours.
All right, because I'm trying to process that one.
Okay.
All right. I'm glad they welcomed you. It's a good committee. Oh, my dear. Okay, any other questions for committee chairs? We're good? Additions, Special Olympics.
Oh,
Deputy.
Worship,
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter of congratulations to Randy Muse for his fourth place finish in the Special Olympics in Ontario this year. And I gave Lindsay Randy's contact information. He represented the town of Yarmouth well, and you know, Randy is one of Yarmouth's biggest boosters when it comes to
Sure
being
is.
at the hockey rink, Special Olympics, and everything else. So Randy did a fine job, and I know I heard him on CGLS, and I know Sean interviewed him. Good interview, Sean. So, yeah, and he said he likes 5-pin bowling better than 10-pin. So it's a little different than what we have here, but he did a great job.
Good for Randy, and you're right, he represents us well. So, Councillor Cleveland, you seconded that? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. COVID, so I added that, so we should have a little chat. Actually, I wrote some notes, just basically a message for us and the public. So to speak to something that's on everyone's mind, and that's the COVID-19 virus that's affecting actually the whole world. So today the federal government committed to more than $1 billion in funding to respond to COVID-19, and that will include purchasing additional equipment and supplies, more funding for research, communications, public education, and additional support for provinces and territories. And actually, the money that's going to provinces and territories is $500 million. So I think a lot of folks had a big concern about how are we going to handle this. Actually, I had that chat with Councillor Hood today about, you know, how many respirators can we possibly have. So those monies are being put up to purchase that equipment as needed. I did read the plan from the federal government. And while I'm no healthcare expert, the plan, it appears very comprehensive, and it covers the needs of Canadians as we all face the virus, and it will evolve as more information and needs come to light. Here at home, we need to be well informed, and that means not getting information from social media posts, as many are not real, and they simply cause more panic for the people that really don't understand what's going on, and that's very concerning. Instead, going to the websites of our health agencies who are keeping us up to date is the way to go. And our communications guy, Mike Carter, has assured me that if you go to the Town of Yarmouth website, townofyarmouth.ca, that you can go on there, and we have a list of all those websites that you can go to and get the real information, and we will keep that updated. So Mike is in contact with our Yarmouth Regional Hospital team here and others as we go. So I would just encourage everybody that's listening this evening, and pass this on to your friends, your family, just please keep informed from the right sites. Not only is the virus a major concern, but it's also cold and flu season here. The same precautions need to be taken. You've heard it 1,000 times. Wash your hands. Wash them again. Be aware of what you're touching. Wipe down shopping cart handles, your car door handle, doorknobs, other surfaces before touching them. I know I have Lysol wipes in the car. I've got hand sanitizer in my purse, and I always wash my hands wherever I go. It all helps, and it's that hand washing and those steps and keeping your distance, a relative distance from people, that is slowing the spread, even though it's really spreading. Perhaps most important is that we need to look after each other in the coming days, and we need to especially look after our most vulnerable, which certainly includes all of our seniors. Time and time again, the community has been advised to be 72 hours ready for storms. And each time a storm hits, regardless of how much warning there was, many are still not ready for it. This one is much more serious. It's not just cold. It's not just your power going out. This is life and death. So we absolutely need to be ready for this while still not panicking. Life and death. So it's important that we reach out to our family and friends right away. I encourage you to do that tonight. Do it tomorrow morning. Find a partner who can help you if you need it, or reach out to somebody that you know, a senior or somebody that's on their own. Just find that buddy system. In the event that someone is self-quarantined, they will still need food and water, still need medication, and yes, they'll still need toilet paper, and you can still find it in the town of Yarmouth. And by the way, I'm going to say this because I have to stop stealing toilet paper from businesses. Seriously, it's happening all the time, and I know it's funny, but it's a crime, and it's a crime, and it'll be prosecuted, especially given the circumstances. It's not yours, don't take it. People will also have to continue to pay bills. Now's the time to learn how to pay your bills online, or find someone who's willing to do these tasks if you are self-quarantined. If you have any indications that you may have the virus, don't guess. The first step is to self-quarantine. Next step is to call 811. You will have to wait for them to get back to you, as the lines are busy. You can well imagine. Be patient and stay quarantined. They will call back, but it's going to take 811 at least 12 hours to get back to you, but they will. That doesn't mean you go out and shake everybody's hand. It means you stay quarantined until you get your answers. I would start now to make sure you have 2 weeks worth of staples ready in your home. I know that's difficult for some people, but do as much as you can. If you think you can help somebody who may not have, please make sure you do that. Don't panic, just build your inventory and be ready in case you have to be quarantined for a couple weeks. Don't wait until it's too late. This is a health care, we don't want to call it a crisis, whatever you want to call it. It's health care. The town can't come to your rescue if you don't have food, if you don't have water, so make sure that you're taking those steps. Going forward, the town will only declare a state of emergency if necessary. I'll call council together and we'll do that if we have to. That's not the case right now. We will be in close contact with our emergency measures organization, and we will keep everyone updated through our regular channels, which is our website. You're safe on our Facebook page if you watch our posts. You know, the Vanguard, the CGLS, all those manners of getting information out there. And we will also be taking our lead from health agencies. Employers should be prepared to support workers as needed, showing compassion and protecting the health of those who don't come to work, because it's safety first. But I'd also suggest you not take advantage of your employers. Again, be concerned, but don't panic. All levels of government are working together to slow the spread and support you, as this virus will likely be in our province in the days ahead. Most likely before I finish reading this message. I'm going to check right after, but I wouldn't be surprised that by tomorrow we hear that it's in Nova Scotia. The town of Yarmouth will be communicating through all our channels. Our EMO will be activated if that is the case, if we start to see confirmed cases in our region, and that information will get out to you. We will work under the guidance and advice from the health experts in doing our part to limit the spread of the virus while looking out for the needs of our community. We need everyone's help to be successful, and if you're well, we need you to be prepared to be patient and respectful that others may not be as fortunate. We will get through this, but it won't be without some challenges. It's a big deal. Pulling together, we will all be better off. So let's do what we do best and look out for and after each other. So, Mike, those pages, website pages, will be kept updated, and people can go to those and get their information. So that's just a little bit of information, and it's basically all I'm saying is don't panic, but make sure that if you know somebody that may need help, let's do that. So the next piece of that is our meetings, and I say setting the example, but it's not just setting the example, it's being safe. So Councillor Hood, you mentioned about, did you want to speak to that, about our council meetings? Go ahead.
So first of all, before I get into the council meetings, because I think my talk on the council meetings involves the examples that need to be set by our leaders. Mm-hmm. For instance, the Prime Minister is currently self-quarantined as a result of some travel by his spouse and her return to Canada with some symptoms of cold or perhaps even coronavirus. And so I think this is the last time until this crisis is over that we should meet in this forum like this. The setup here is the 3-foot distance with the chairs, and it was done today for the spectators.
Yes.
But we ourselves are in closer proximity to each other than the recommended spacing by Health Canada. But I wanted to go back to something else. 3 nights ago, the Toronto Raptors played the Utah Jazz, and they pulled out a win. Prior to the end of the game, there was an incident involving one of the Raptors players, one of their stars, Mr. Anababi, and one of the big men for Utah. They were both ejected, and the next day there was a lot of chit-chat and chatter about on the sports talk radio. It wasn't about COVID or anything like that. It was about those players, and they shouldn't have been ejected. Anyway, should have been 1 point each. So what's all this about? If you watch the sports channel I did, they interviewed the player from Utah, big guy, forget his name now. The next day, that player was diagnosed with COVID. He played 33 minutes in the game. The NBA canceled or suspended their season the same night. We're on the edge of everywhere. That may shield us for a bit of time, but this thing is coming. And we can't be cavalier about it here any less than they can anywhere else in the country. Transport Canada, according to what I read last night, and the other federal health agency, are considering right now canceling or suspending the cruise industry in Canada for this coming season. That is going to impact, for sure, our ferry service here in Yarmouth, and we might as well get it out there now. Citizens are going to complain to us and everybody else about their economic difficulties as a result of that. The head of the United Nations said 3 days ago, this is not about money and inconvenience because of business and otherwise. This is a moral obligation on the part of all of us to protect senior citizens who are most at risk. And we need to understand that. And so what the mayor said, to her point, we've all got to really dig in and do things differently. It's not easy to stop putting your fingers in your mouth or wherever you do. It's hard. But we need to be conscious about it all the time. So on that point, I think we should set an example here by making sure that our next committee of the whole and council meetings are conducted in by wire somehow or another. Telephone or whatever can be rigged up here, but not in this setting. That's what I think. Then we don't have anybody in here being exposed unnecessarily, and we set an example of how these things might be done. I know that one of the organizations I belong to notified us yesterday and all of its employees that from now on the employees are going to be encouraged, it's the Nova Scotia Corporation, to work from home. Meetings that I would be attending on the 20th in Halifax will be conducted by telephone. An annual conference is canceled, and this is going to pervade right through all that we do. And I'm sure that if all of us pull together and take responsibility for this, for ourselves, our spouses, our families, our friends, we'll pull through this. There'll be some difficult times, but we'll pull through this. And thank God we are where we are, on the edge of everywhere. Because I think to some extent, we're shielded, but that won't last forever.
No.
I think there's an awful lot more of this disease out there that hasn't been reported. So I make that, I don't know what we can do, what the staff can do, but this is a motion I make, that we look into the possibility of conducting our committee of the whole, the next one, and our council meeting by telephone. Or some other, if there's another media, Skype or whatever, rig up. Thank you. That's my motion.
So is the motion for staff to look into how we can do that, or for us to just do it and we find a way?
Well, the motion is to do it.
Okay.
I guess you got to say providing we find a way. Because otherwise we've got to come in here and find a way. The other way is we come in here, we set up, and we're separated by the distances we're supposed to be separated. And we should start doing that tomorrow. It's 3 feet each side.
Yeah. Dome, yeah, we'll get some domes set up. Okay, so it's moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. Lindsay, can you put his light off? Fire service rating. CAO.
Your Worship, Underwriters Laboratories of Canada provides a service to insurance companies across Canada where they provide a fire protection rating to the insurance companies who set the rates for your fire insurance. So one company does all of the ratings, and then the many insurance companies take those ratings and create the rates that everyone pays when they protect their property from, or at least insure their property in the case of fire. Another service that they provide is that they will, at the request of a municipality, they will come in and they will actually do a focused assessment of your fire protection, and it includes everything from your personnel and volunteers to your apparatus, your ability to supply water, your training, your fire inspection program, and so on. I'm suggesting, Council, that we negotiate a contract with Underwriters Laboratories of Canada to do that assessment for us, for a couple of reasons. As Council's aware, we are currently without a chief, and without that role being filled, We lack a certain degree of leadership and vision for the department. It's an opportune time to have an independent third party come in and give us a rating that will tell us where we are, I guess, in terms of fire protection for our district. It will give us recommendations for maintaining that rating or even improving that rating in terms of all the categories that I just mentioned. And if the rating that they come up with is actually higher than the rating they have on the books, and to be honest, I don't know how they come up with that rating, because I've not filled out any questionnaires myself. If the rating is better than what they have on the books, then all of our citizens and business owners who have fire insurance stand to benefit financially. So the draft proposal, I guess through the discussions I've had with them to do this work, the cost is $16,832 plus HST. And so what the devil's in the details in terms of the scope, and they've provided a draft scope. I would like the authority to go ahead and contract with Underwriters Laboratories of Canada to do a fire service analysis for that amount of money, scope and details to be negotiated.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Solid waste. We're back to that one.
Your Worship.
Oh, gosh, why do I not ever?
Okay, thank you. So as we discussed earlier on the second reading agenda item, we've pulled back those proposed amendments, and we have a new set of amendments for your consideration, which we discussed earlier. Now, we did talk about a slight change, and that is in item 3QI, where it would say a compostable product is an organic and acceptable to the town in a green card. So that's a small amendment from what is on the paper. And the second thing that I mentioned was the collection of yard waste in plastic bags. That's in section K9I, where it refers to yard waste being acceptable to collect in clear plastic bags or paper bags. And so we've removed the clear plastic bags, and so yard waste could be put out in paper bags if that is amended out of the bylaw. So those are the proposed amendments, and Your Worship, a motion to approve those amendments for first reading and to go to public hearing would be appropriate.
Moved. Second. All those, Steve, Councillor Steve got the second. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Solid waste. Approval of invoices, please.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Date of next meeting is April the 9th, and we might not get to come together to do this. So is there anything else in camera? Okay, so I'm going to have a motion to adjourn, and then we're going into a water utility, okay? So motion to adjourn, please.
Greg said it's going to be pretty hard. We're going to have a public meeting that day, too.
That's the best time. Okay,